Here at 6 o'clock, so you can begin when you're ready.
Thank you. Good evening. The West Hollywood Human Services Commission acknowledges that the land on which we gather, and that is currently known as the City of West Hollywood, is the occupied, unceded, unseceded, seized territory of the Gabrieleño Tongva and Gabrieleño Quiche peoples. I call this meeting to order. Would you call the roll, please, Joyce?
Yes. Okay. Commissioner Borelli,
Present.
Commissioner Davis,
Here.
Commissioner Freiberg,
Here.
Commissioner Palmieri,
Yes. Here.
Vice Chair Darvish is absent. Chair Meltzer,
Here.
you have a quorum.
Leslie, thank you. Would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I would be honored. Thank you. You can put your right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the agenda, please?
So moved.
Second.
Joyce?
Commissioner Borelli,
Aye.
Commissioner Davis,
Aye.
Commissioner Freiberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Palmieri,
Yes.
and Chair Meltzer.
Yes. Motion to approve the minutes, please.
I will.
Stephen, second?
Second.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Commissioner Borelli,
Yes.
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Freiberg,
I was not here, so I abstain.
okay, Commissioner Palmieri,
Yes.
and Chair Meltzer.
Yes, thank you. Are there any public comments, Joyce?
We have no advanced public comments, but I'd like to open up the floor for anyone who is here and would like to give a public comment at this time. Please use the raised hand feature and you will be called upon. So if you'd like to speak, now is the time. Doesn't look like we have anyone.
Doesn't look like we have any. Okay, so we have nothing under the consent calendar. We have no unfinished business. We have new business, drink spiking test kit distribution. And Derek, I'm going to turn this over to you.
Sure. So we are joined here by the LGBT Center's WeHo Life program. We have Paul Chavez and Daryl Hunter to do the presentation. And just to give you just a little bit of background, the drink spiking test strips is a new part to the WeHo Life program. WeHo Life has been a long-standing contract since I believe around 2007 with different iterations throughout the years, but it's always been a harm reduction program to minimize the risk of HIV and STDs, substance use, and now sexual assault prevention. So I'm going to hand this over to Paul and Daryl for the presentation.
Hello, good evening, commissioners. Good to see you all. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
City staff, good to see you all. So I just wanted to go over some numbers real quick from our first 3 months of launching our new program. I think we're really excited and happy with the progress. So just to give you a kind of idea, to date, we've distributed almost 9,000 testing strips. So we're at around 8,950. So that is amongst 17 different partners, bars and restaurants throughout the city of West Hollywood, mainly on the Rainbow District and then the Rock and Roll District on Sunset. We've had 5 special events, and I would have to also just add to that very intentional, very impactful events that we've had the opportunity to be involved with to this point. We've been working with the Nightlife Safety Coalition, I believe is the title of the group, but also just working with other partners, agencies throughout the city, doing similar work around harm reduction, and they've been very successful events. Also, I think which is really important is the reception from the community. It's been very positive, all around positive. We haven't had any negative kind of feedback or pushback on the distribution. Give you an idea kind of like of what our distribution looks like. Daryl and I and other members from our team kind of piggybacking off of our con distribution that we do monthly, and really building off of the trust that we've built with our partners from that, and kind of very passive engagement when it comes to our nightlife testing kits for drinks, really kind of presenting the option to them, and everybody's been super receptive so far. So everybody has taken the testing strips and also have reached out to replenish their supply, a couple of our partners. So the reception to the program has been very successful, very positive. I think, you know, a credit to the City of West Hollywood and their efforts to get out the word about the program. I think pretty much, if not every business we went into was aware of the program and was kind of expecting us to come by, and also was really appreciative of just the efforts to create safer spaces in the city. On top of our first kind of round of distributions, we also made it a point to engage with the clients and customers that were in the establishments. So really kind of taking the opportunity to talk to anyone we could, just letting them know that this is a new program that we're launching and actually distributing them to clientele there within the bar. Also, I think, you know, pretty much every space that we've been into and every event we've been at, we've had community members, you know, come up to us off the street and just kind of share with us about their experiences, either being a victim of drug-assisted sexual assault or knowing somebody that was a victim, and just again, just really appreciative of the work that we're doing with you all, and just really appreciating the you know, added safety to any spaces they're going to be in. Yeah, so I think we have a lot of, I know we provided updates, so I know you all have the kind of specific partners that we're working with, but if you all have any questions about that or about how the program has been going so far, please feel free to ask me and Daryl there. We have a lot of information here, so whatever you guys would like to know.
Thank you. So does anybody have any questions or comments? Commissioner Borelli.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hi, Paul. Hi, Daryl. Thank you for this important work that you do. One of my questions was going to be about the reception. How has, especially among the business community, how have the business communities, have they been open to this? Have they been supportive of this? And it sounds like the answer to that is yes. Relatedly, though, I see that you've been more focused on the Rainbow District, and I appreciate you calling it that instead of the other name that it's known by. But I've been curious as to why it's been a little light on Sunset, and if Sunset will be in your plans, more opportunities or more establishments on Sunset, is that in your plan moving forward?
Yes. Yes. So I think, you know, on top of, you know, the reception, I think one thing is worth mentioning is that we had an opportunity to educate a lot of staff at the bars and bartenders, you know, just educate them on the program, and also just like the resources that we're kind of including along with our testing strips. Yeah, so I think so up to this point we've been working with our Marcom department to create some collateral around the program. I'm not sure if you all are familiar with the kits as they exist right now, but it's packaging from the manufacturer. So we're swapping that out, and we created it's hard to see, but we created these little sleeves that are similar to the sleeves that we created for our fentanyl testing strip, and that we actually just distributed yesterday. The manufacturer actually sells the testing strips and the container separately. So one of our strategies going into it was to repackage them. About 10 testing strips come in each package right now, and they're good for 2 tests each. So that's 20 tests given out at one time. So we wanted to kind of spread that out a bit. So right now we're actually planning a distribution day this week as soon as kind of the weather kind of allows a little bit, probably Thursday or Friday. But yes, Sam, we're actually looking to really kind of expand on Sunset up there and thinking of different types of not only bars and restaurants, but other types of businesses that would be appropriate for that type of distribution. Also, an idea that we also have had, and we're looking forward to kind of speaking with some folks at the block by block kiosks. I think just having them readily available for at those places in case you know, someone wants to go and pick them up that you know, may not want to go in a bar or restaurant. Make it super accessible and easy, and then doing just the same thing, bit of education with the ambassadors to kind of see if we could kind of have them readily available also just when they're patrolling.
Could you repeat, please, what you said? I'm sorry about the ambassadors, the block by block. I didn't hear what you said.
Sure, yeah, no, so like we wanted to see if we could get some containers of our testing strips at those kiosks also. And then also just list those partners on our website, our landing page, so so people know that they can go and access them at those sites also. We did create a landing page that has all of our resources, how they would kind of reach out to request the strips. Also resources on our stop violence program, and just kind of instructions on kind of best practices if someone were to come up with a positive test result. So yes, so we're adding, it's kind of a living page, so we're adding to those resources as we go, as we kind of are compiling those resources.
Great.
Thank you.
One last thing. If you guys haven't checked in with the Chamber of Commerce, I would recommend you do. I can't remember the day, but once a month they have a hospitality industry specific meeting. And I think it'd be a great opportunity for you to present and educate there. You have a captive audience of business owners, general managers of hotels, restaurants, nightclubs, etc. But really important work that you're doing, and glad that you're doing it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Riley. And it's also one of our plans is to connect with them also. I think that's a great idea and super important to kind of doing the education, you know, a little bit more in depth of, you know, if there were to be an incident where someone would have a positive test, you know, how would staff react to that? You know, like what would be the process from there, as far as, you know, replacing a drink or, you know, whatever it comes down to, like as far as like specifics. But no, thank you for that. That's something that we're looking forward to.
Yeah, thank you. Commissioner Palmieri, you had your hand up?
Yes, thank you. I want to ask everyone, did Paul's voice start echoing, or is it just my computer?
No, it's all of us. It's a little echoey and breaking up on our side.
I apologize. You know what that is, Jimmy? That's actually me and Daryl are in the same office right now, so we're trying to switch off between laptops.
Okay, so it's great to see both of you guys, and I'm sure that this was said, but when it started to get blurry, your voices, I want to make sure that I did not miss one thing, that you brought up what protocols might be in case there is a tainted drink, correct? And you'll be working on those with the businesses, whether it's replacing a drink, whether it's notifying police or whatever it is that you'll have to do, that will come back to us.
Yeah, I think that's you know, one of the conversations that we would love to have, you know, with folks is just and part of the education is just like, you know, just thinking of it all the way through. You know, if we were to get a positive test, you know, another thing that we talked about, because this type of test does not have control. So if there was a positive result, we would encourage them to test it on the other side. So there's 2 tests on 1 card. So just those type of things, you know, and making sure that the staff at these establishments, businesses, that they just have a little bit more insight and they maybe could, you know, give those tips. And then also, just be aware of, like, you know, if someone were to come back with a drink, then like maybe they could have that conversation with amongst their own staff and kind of be on the same page about what they would what they would do about it. Yeah.
And
then,
Commissioner
it's like,
Palmieri,
I'm not,
sorry, I
who's
just wanted
speaking?
to say real quick, it's me, it's Derek. With that being said, I think what WeHo Life and I are working on is kind of a list of options for individuals if it does come back positive, because not everybody would be willing to contact the sheriffs for whatever reason, and might not be safe for them to do so. So I think it's important for us in our packaging and our marketing to give some options, but let people know that this really is a harm reduction and a prevention program. The main goal is to not drink the drink. What comes afterwards, though, there are some options for that.
I would hope, my best hope would be that they would at least notify the establishment. Whether or not the establishment decides that they're going to replace a drink is arbitrary to me. It's tossing the drink, just like it would be tossing a bad batch that was infected, has fentanyl in it, of meth or coke or whatever. But one thing I did want to ask Paul or Daryl, I feel like I always think like, oh my gosh, I know all the answers to these, and then of course, when you're here, I don't know an answer. What does this strip show that it's positive for? Is it simply opioid, or is it fentanyl, or is it a myriad of drugs? Is it benzos? What is it telling you that's in the drink?
Oh yeah, so right now, this test in particular tests for GHB and ketamine, which is the drugs that are standardly used when it's a date rape situation or kind of those kind of spike drink situation.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for your hard work, guys.
Thank you, and thank you, commissioners, just for this initiative and all the work that you all are doing. As a community member and someone who has frequented the bar since I turned 18, I think anything to make our spaces safer is just so much appreciated by myself, and I know all my colleagues and all my friends who go out.
I just want to find out if anybody else has any questions or comments before you go away. Commissioner Freiberg.
Don't go away yet. One more question. Thank you so much, Paul, for your presentation and what you're doing. I mean, you're saving lives. So that's pretty impressive. And this drug is really, really scary. But I think when your sound went out, when it sounded like you're from another universe, did you say that people admitted to you that they had been sexually assaulted?
Yes. So yeah, and Daryl, if you want to talk about it a little bit, but so I think one of the events that we were at that stands out is our Models of Pride annual youth conference. So we took that opportunity to just talk with young people about drug-assisted sexual assault, and really with such a valuable kind of opportunity to educate folks when they're younger before they kind of start going into the city and going to bars. But I'm sorry, I forgot the question. Joy.
I wanted to know if they actually admitted.
Oh, yes.
And then I was wondering, so what do you tell them? Do you have some places, pamphlets or phone numbers you could give them, or any resources to send them to?
Yes. So yes, we've had several times. I want to say, gosh, more than when we were together, Gerald. At least yeah, please go ahead, Gerald.
So yes, that's our style. So to speak to that, yeah. So we better. So yeah, we have situations where when we was doing distributions, such as like we had an event. When we was doing the Rainbow District, we have women and men who came up to us who were just curious to know what we was delivering, and they told us personal stories about them being spiked at one point, and that how they were just happy to see the city out there combating it to try to prevent further incidents for the future. And of course, like what Paul was saying, we have had situations where we was at our Models of Pride, which is a youth event that showed that hundreds of kids show up to. And they tell us their own personal stories. So we sit there and we kind of educate them how to use it and what to use it for, and so they can go out and be safe. But yes, we have encountered numerous stories of people being spiked at one point. So they were just happy to see that these things exist.
And Commissioner Freiberg, if I could just add to that,
Also just a little bit more about, so the resources that we would kind of give out at that point. Here at the center, we have our stop violence program, which has a lot of resources that they can offer victims, as well as our sexual assault hotline, which is a hotline that's kind of open 24 hours. So we've included a QR code on the back of our little kind of a little please here, a little QR code to the landing page. And so that has kind of a list of the resources that we would talk about. And then also just kind of best practices if a test were to come positive, kind of like 3 steps of what you should do, and just kind of what we were talking about earlier, you know, toss out the drink, let the bartender know, kind of a thing. You know, I think as we kind of continue to roll out the program and as we kind of discover different resources that we think would be appropriate and helpful for folks, we're definitely going to add that to the page as it grows.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Anybody else? By the way, thank you for the visual. It's always good to have a visual.
You're welcome.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you both so much.
Yeah, thank you all. And I think, you know, I think how you mentioned, you know, I think definitely, you know, potentially saving people's lives. And I think just starting the conversation and building the awareness around what's going on, I think that has been a big success, you know, and what we could hope for in the beginning of a program like this. So thanks again, everybody. Really great talking with you today.
Thanks. Thanks so much. Bye-bye. Next on the agenda, public hearing on potential barriers to accessing pre and post exposure PrEP and PEP therapies to prevent HIV infection. And with us, we have Hernan Molina, West Hollywood's Government Affairs Liaison.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you very much. It's such a pleasure to start 2023 with this commission and all of you whom I've known for such a long time, and I call myself friends, not just commissioners, people that I know that all of you individually have had careers by yourself in the field and doing the best for the community. So I really appreciate the invitation and allowing me to present to you. As you, Chair Meltzer, mentioned in the presentation of this item. This is something that we are doing under direction of the City Council, which in November approved the item that is mentioned in your staff report. And this is something that we have heard from different people, including one of our council members, Councilmember Erickson, and then working with my colleagues in the Social Services Division, with Leslie, with Derek, and everybody else. We got to find out more about it. So put it simply, about 3 years ago, the Senate, under the leadership of Senator Scottwiner, introduced a law that was aimed at removing barriers and making PrEP widely available, because as we know, and many of you have experienced in HIV matters, it's a proven way to reduce transmission. Unfortunately, the pharmacists at the time, including the California Medical Association, if I recall correctly, did not approve of this and actually oppose the bill. The bill is great. The problem is that based on our anecdotal information, we are finding out pharmacists are not participating. People in general are accessing PrEP, but when we say people, we talk about people who are members of our community, who are highly educated, who are highly connected, and may be able to get the PrEP from the center, from private providers, online providers. But we feel that the bill perhaps needs to, or that the issue needs to be further explored. And this is why when we discussed this matter with my colleagues and Councilmember Erickson, we thought it was a good idea to have a community conversation. So we were initially going to have this conversation in January, but because there is so much legwork that has to remain to be done, we are pushing these for the end of February. And when we presented this item to the whole council under the auspices of Councilmember Erickson, we thought it was important to have the different advisory boards and commissions that have purview within these issues and constituencies. And obviously, the Human Services Commission is one of those commissions. It's actually the only commission that we are coming to, but we are actually, I already talked to the Transgender Advisory Board, and I will be talking next week with the Lesbian and Gay and LGBTQ plus commission advisory board. It keeps changing, so pardon me, it's hard to keep track. So I don't know if you have any questions for me. What I would like, thank you, Chair. What I would like to finish with is that this is a request to work collaboratively, and we would like to, I know that some of you are very immersed in the community, like Commissioner Palmieri and Commissioner Borrelli, and Stephen as well. So this is for us to join forces in reaching out to the community and getting the word out. So with that, I'll conclude and I'll pass to you, Chair. So thank you again for allowing me to present.
I get my question is, I'm not sure what we're trying to do. What is it that we try to create policy?
No, policy is created obviously because we are talking about a state law. This will be created by, has been created over by the legislature. What we are trying to collect is input. That's why we have a public hearing. In the same way that, and some of you have participated in public hearings conducted by the legislature, when there is an issue, for instance, with mental health or the adequacy of services provided under I don't know, palliative care for hospice, and they bring providers, they bring nurses, they bring physicians, they bring loved ones of someone who's in hospice care. They all provide their input as to how things are going. And that's educational for the legislators and their staffers. And so, you know, for full disclosure, I've been having conversations not only with members of our community, and when I talk community, I'm talking about APLA, I'm talking about the center, I'm talking about providers, but also talk to the legislative director for Senator Wiener, whom is in charge of the implementation of the law and was there when the law was passed. So he's aware that there are issues. This is not the first time here. The idea is that San Francisco and other communities that have a high concentration of gay men who are the main individuals accessing PrEP will be able to replicate this and contribute to any input to make any changes to law should the law need to be changed, which at this point we have an indication that it may be necessary, but we need to get more input from the community.
Thank you. So you are looking for a commissioner to represent our commission?
1, 2, 3 commissioners. We cannot have a majority of the commission, obviously.
No.
I have a quorum to assist. And when I said assist, you know, we are going to do most of the legwork at staff level, but to assist in getting the word out, to assist in communicating properly what the problem is, or at least the perceived problem, and helping us to reach out to the community, because you all are part of the community. So, thank you.
Commissioner Palmieri, did I see your hand going up?
Thank you very much, Hernandez. This is something that I truly believe needs to be prioritized. Working with folks getting into recovery and actually actively using PrEP probably is one of the most important things that I see not being used. And I think you were correct, Hernan, in saying that folks that may be, you know, hooked in, or that may know more folks, or that are a little bit more educated, are having easier access than other folks in the community. And that's always been the case. And I assume that will always be the case with anything with healthcare. But I would love to join in on this to make sure that everyone is getting a fair chance at this, and to remove any barriers, because I see it personally. And, you know, I was able to get Truvado and then Descovy as soon as Descovy came out without any questions. But then again, I know how to navigate. The average person does not. And it's, I think that for us to assist them should be prioritized.
Thank you. I just want to mention that, I don't know if I mentioned to you, I am in Sacramento right now doing legislative work. Our goal is to collect the input, whatever it is. No, we don't want to obviously taint the input. We don't want to imprint our perceptions, and then provide it to not just the legislator who is the author of this bill, Senator Winner, but also to the LGBT caucus of the legislature for them to do more, including the possibility of hosting their own hearing here in the Capitol, which can be accessed via Zoom from any part of the state. To this afternoon, we had a conversation with our city lobbyist, and the idea is to run this also via the Senate Health Committee, which happens to be chaired by Senator Talamantes, who is a member of the LGBT community and chair of the LGBT caucus of the legislature.
So we have one hand was raised. Anybody else? Or you can think about it and then call.
Sure.
Or no?
I'll participate. I'll participate as well.
Okay,
As
great.
much as it pains me, I'll agree with everything Commissioner Palmieri said about barriers, about making sure. But I'll also, of course, echo what Hernan said. This is about gathering information. Reading the information about the pharmacies and that pharmacies might not be participating. I can, we can think about CVS, but we have thousands, hundreds, tens of mom and pop pharmacies. I mean, I'm personally connected to an owner of a pharmacy here, and he works 80 hours a week. So the first thing that popped into my mind is, it may be not just that he hasn't done it, it's that he hasn't had time to do it. That we're all experiencing across this country staff shortages everywhere. So that could be something that gets uncovered in this process that helps Hernan and Senator Wiener to get to the next level and see what we need to do so that we can get more people involved and get more pep and prep out to folks.
And that is exactly the gist of having a hearing without imprinting our own bias. When we were talking, and Derek has done quite a bit of work, so my credit to Derek for contacting the pharmacies. You hit it right in the nail. Some pharmacies, it's not they don't want to do it; they are already pulled to the max. And perhaps one of the things that the legislature needs to consider is simplifying the process and using available technology for the qualification and being able to fill these prescription online and do the verification and all that. So I think there is room for improvement. We are not going to change the world, but we can contribute to make some changes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? You have certainly educated me, Hernan.
Commissioner Borelli, I
Thank
just wanted to add to that too. It's not only just the time, but it's also the cost for the pharmacies. They don't get to bill anyone or anything for this, so there's no financial incentive to do it. And that's also preventing them from prescribing PEP and PrEP.
And I have to just add personally, like, this guy is not only working these hours, but oftentimes losing money because they don't have the CVS and the other technology and all that other support behind them. They're working with their own staff and their own computer systems. And he told me one of the prescriptions he was giving me, he was losing money on every month. I mean, literally losing money on because of my copay, because of how the whole system is set up. So I completely understand how it might be more challenging. And if we can, again, get past some of these barriers, that'd be great.
And you know that, unfortunately, the state has been very good at passing laws without giving the proper reimbursement, which we call, and met unfunded mandates. So for us as a municipal government, who is successful and has reserve, we've been able to go without reimbursement. Smaller cities that are barely making it take a dip, and the same is true for pharmacies. So you hit it right now. So this is why it's important to have the conversation. We need to contribute. West Hollywood never stays quiet.
Yeah.
I can tell you that you have my commitment to always speak up. Some of you know that I'm not necessarily shy.
Oh.
So anyway. thank you for your time. I don't want to take, I know that you have other business, so I
Oh, before you go,
appreciate.
anybody else? No, okay. Hanan, thank you
Thank you,
so
Chair,
much.
and
Thank
thank you, Commissioners. Have a good night.
So now we go to the Human Services Commission 2023 work plan, which will be led by Leslie.
Good evening, Chair Meltzer and commissioners. It's nice to see you all tonight. This item is an item that we bring to the commission every year around this time. It's an opportunity for you to discuss your work plan for the current calendar year. I want to just state that the work plan is really a guideline. It's a living document, something that we kind of consider not fixed, something that can be added to, something that can be taken away from, things can be postponed. As you know, because many of you have been on the commission for a goodly number of years, sometimes things come up that we couldn't have anticipated, and we have to throw it on an agenda because it's important to get the commission's input on something that might be high priority and time sensitive. And then, occasionally there are things that can, as I said, get postponed because they're not as urgent, and they might get put off in place of more of higher priority items. So what I did in the packet is I provided for you last year's work plan. And as you know, and Commissioner Freiberg brought this up earlier this week in an email, much of last year's work plan was unique to last year because it was the RFP year, and there was so much on our agendas having to do with the RFP. And I'm, of course, happy to go over things with you if there's any confusion about what is and is not, was or was not RFP related. But I think for the most part, you can figure that out. And really, the way that we have structured this conversation in the past is we've brought it to 2 meetings. The first being just a reminder of this is what was accomplished last year. There may be some ideas or thoughts about things that folks might want to address. And it should be stated that, we need to keep it to items that are under the purview of this commission. And if there's any question as to whether or not something is or is not under this commission's purview, we'll get some clarification from the city clerk. But typically we would bring this to 2 meetings, one to introduce it, talk about it, review it, and then bring it back in February to finalize it and give people an opportunity to give some thought to what they would like to see. So with that, I think that's enough of an introduction to the item, and Chair Meltzer, you can feel free to lead the discussion.
Well, I'm not exactly sure. Should we go month by month or just ideas?
I think we can kind of do both. If everybody has their, does everybody have the 2022 work plan in front of them? Okay. Well, let's try going looking at January.
Okay.
And I can call out the things that wouldn't be on the 2023 work plan because it was RFP related. And in January, that would be the last 2 items, which would be looking over the RFP schedule. And actually, I'm sorry, the last item, which is not RFP related, but was situational to last year, was a report from the TEAP program. I can talk to you that the agency development funding awards, those decisions just got made today and not in time for this packet. And I suppose you all are still aware that we are still very challenged staffing wise in our division currently. We are working to rectify that as quickly as possible with our HR department, but even on the fast track, it's a slow process. So, so some things that you might have seen earlier on an agenda last year, may be a month or so later this year, and that is
So this could be in
certainly the
February.
case. That is the case with the
Well,
agency
it's not going to be
development.
in January.
Right,
Yeah.
so that would be, okay.
Yeah,
And the other
yeah.
thing we had talked about possibly, and I don't know, is choosing liaisons to other commissions and boards, but we should probably wait until we are newly formed, whatever this commission is going to be. So, but that is something that
Yeah,
we will
That's
need to do it at some
correct.
point.
And
Okay.
that's your, that's the call of the commission. We could do that whenever
Mhm.
that seems appropriate. So clearly, for example, the agency development funds, will bring an item to you in February, since that
Okay.
has been, was, as I said, just determined. And we will also hopefully have an update on the unspent funds. And then we can finalize the work plan calendar. So those 3 items can go to February, if that's the will of the commission.
Well, there's so many things on the preparation. There's social services, so that doesn't, anything that's in March doesn't really belong in March anymore. It doesn't
That's
really
right.
belong
March
to the
March
whole-
was all
March is
RFP
out.
last
Right.
year. That is correct.
Right. Now, the HIV Zero Initiative Year 5 evaluation, is that all done? Have we been through year 5?
We have been through year 5. Derek, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, we'll have a final report that we're working on for council, and then also for commission. And it could be a presentation or it could be a consent item, either or.
That could also go into May if necessary, since that is Prevention Awareness Month, depending on the staff schedule.
And that May is also Mental Health Awareness Month. So that would stay.
Okay.
I can jump in
and-
again. Oh, sorry.
Well, go
Chair.
ahead, please.
I'm really curious about when we'll get reports from our new
Thank you.
fundies. We have a number of new fundies for this cycle, and I don't remember if it's 3 months or 6 months. I'm assuming 6 months might be more typical, so that might be in April, May also type of thing, Leslie?
Yeah, so that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up. As you know, just last month's Human Services Commission meeting, I brought the year-end report on social services for the 2021-2022 contract year. And the mid-year, let me say, the Q1 reports are due to us next week. So for those, and to remind you what those new contracts are, it's Healthcare in Action, Maple Counseling Center, and Legal Services through the Los Angeles LGBT Center. We'll get their first quarter report next week, and we will get their second quarter report in mid-April. And then I will bring to you the mid-year report on social services probably in June. That's typically when we bring the mid-year report, and I think we have it here as such. We can, and we've done this, and we want to do it again this year, is we can have each of those new programs come and present separate and apart from the mid-year, so that you can hear how it's going. We want to give them the benefit of at minimum the first quarter, and ideally the second quarter, but we can plug those 3 programs into the calendar at any juncture.
Why don't we have each commissioner, if you have any thoughts about what you would like to see, please raise your hand. Why don't we start it that way? Commissioner Palmieri.
So can you hear me, folks? I'm sorry, but my internet is like blasting on and off. Leslie, is it possible to get the numbers for Q1 just as a receive and file for us, since you'll be getting them next week anyway? Can we see them in February as a receive and file?
You can definitely see them as a receive and file. February might be a little early. When we
Okay.
get a report, there's a fair amount of back and forth before a report gets finalized.
So how about March? Can we at least see them? We don't, it doesn't have to be something that we discuss, but it can just be a receive and final and file so that we have an idea of where the where Q1 is at. And because June seems like a long way for us to get any information.
To be clear, are you looking for all the agencies or just the new folks?
I mean, I would be interested in all the agencies. Certainly the new ones are prioritized in my mind, but I would be interested in all of the agencies. I don't know about my colleagues, but I like to see all of them as soon as we can. Certainly, my word is not gospel, but that's just what I would like to see.
Oh, yes, it is, Jimmy.
Well, in this house,
I'd be interested to hear from the other commissioners, of course. I'd be a little reticent to give that too early without us having a chance to do the work that we do to communicate with the agencies before finalizing things. And I think sort of given our staffing reality, as well as having some newly funded programs, if you could wait at least, because this is the beginning of the 3-year contract, give us a little bit of breathing room in that regard. We can get you the mid-year report, and then we can also look at maybe next year bringing things to you a little bit, the Q1 maybe a little bit sooner, but at least we'll have a little bit of time under our.
I certainly didn't mean to pile any work on you. I know how short-staffed you are, and I know how overworked you are at this stage. I was assuming that since you had the numbers and you would be discussing them, that it wouldn't be an additional thing. But if it is, certainly I can wait till June. I'm sure everybody can. I just like to get the numbers as soon as possible so I could start working them in my brain. That being said, I do understand the predicament that your department is in at this stage.
Thank you.
But I'll underscore that.
Commissioner Dave. Oh,
sure. Sorry. I'll underscore that I think getting even a brief report or a presentation from the newbies, even if we don't have their full numbers, just a brief presentation, how it started, how it's going, what they think, what might have been different from what they expected. And if there's any input that you and we can provide as they move forward, I think would be good. Now I'll give it to Dave.
Commissioner Davis.
Yeah, I would agree with Mr. Commissioner Borelli. I think sooner from them is better. So maybe May would be a good time before they're getting actual numbers printed out to us, maybe by June. You said the mid-year, so that would give them an opportunity to talk. But I would also just like to highlight or red flags. If you're reading February and you see there's a red flag or two, I think that could come to the commission without having to bring the entire report to the commission. So I would be more interested in people who are struggling or people who have, or what is it called? Got out of the gate and didn't get anywhere. So I would like to see, that would interest me more. If the rest are on some kind of schedule, they're actually working, then I don't have a problem with that. So I'd be more interested in the red flags, if that makes any sense.
It does. I
Makes
just
sense. If I
didn't want to point them out.
Well, there's always a possibility of a red flag, and it has happened in the past, and it can happen again. So I think those are usually better caught early than just letting them drift on down the road till say July or August and September, and then you've already compounded your error. So that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
Commissioner Piper, did you have your hand up, or did I? No.
I didn't, but I can say something.
Okay, say something.
So I mean, before we know it, it's going to be mid-June. It's going to be June, and I see on here from last year we had the mid-year report, which I think is fair, especially for city staff that's understaffed and everything, and they're and all of these contracted partners are just getting on their feet for the new year. It's going to be here before you know it. I don't think unless there's something happening like Chair Davis, I always call him Chair since the start, Commissioner Davis, you'll always be Chair to me. I don't see any reason to really dig in on this. Unless there's a problem. That's just my
Thank you. I'd like to just offer up a suggestion that for the next 3 meetings, February, March, and April, we schedule one of each of the 3 new programs to present. By mid-April, we will then have the Q2 reports coming into us for review, and we can work on the mid-year report to come to the commission ideally in June.
So Leslie, I think what is in the back of my head, and the reason why I brought this up is, and I think you'll remember this, the Frontiers Association or Society or whatever they were calling themselves, and LA LGBT mental health, senior services were in trouble from the first quarter. And I do believe that as commissioners, we can offer them assistance in reaching their goals. That's probably why this came into my brain right away, because we have in the past seen, unfortunately, we don't want anyone to fail, of course, but we have seen that in the first quarter. And I think Commissioner Davis will remember those two. So that was the reason I brought it. But I do agree with Commissioner Davis that if there is a red flag that you see and that we could possibly assist them in reaching their goals, certainly that's what our job is, part of our job is.
Great.
But we will have, as we have had in the past during awareness months, I mean, the senior health fair, and there was and then the transportation and block by block and mental health awareness month. I mean, those will all be back, I would imagine. Block by block, maybe not, but it would be interesting to have a new report from them. And also we had a presentation about dementia awareness and caregivers. And I think we should do that again, because that has not been done for a long time. And I think that's really important, because I think that we probably have more of that in the city than we realize, more people with dementia. I also had a thought. Do you want my thoughts? Okay, because our library really helps our department and everything that we do. And I think it would be interesting to have Matt come and talk to us about what the library is doing to help social services. I think it would be good for us to know that. The transportation update, of course, which we always get, senior month. Now we talk about that the month before it actually happens, right? Because we usually have a table there and all of those things. And I would like to talk about what we want on that table. Because of, are we having it? Is it going to happen?
We don't know.
You don't know. Okay.
It's an ill-advised idea in this current moment to bring a bunch of older adults indoors together. So that's a TBD. But either way, we will still bring an update on senior month more generally, and whether it includes a health fair. I don't know if everybody here knows, for the last one, I wrote an article about sex and the senior health fair, about our health fair. And if you're really good, I'll let you read it.
There was sex at the senior health fair?
Yes. One of our giveaways was this big basket of condoms. I have great stories.
David told me they were using the condoms as jar openers.
No, that was, no. Well, actually they were, but that's a whole other thing. These make great jar openers. What about aging in place, aging in community? Well, we have reports. I mean, I know we've done our 5 years, but I think a report about that would really be good.
We had that.
Did we have it last?
We had it in August. Corey Plank and her team came.
Okay.
So yes, of course, there are things on here that are annual that will continue to come back, and that would definitely be one of them.
Okay, I'd like to add Ageism Awareness Day to it, October 7th. To have somebody come and talk about that.
Okay.
And the other thing I thought about was given this time, we had social isolation and loneliness as a presentation, and I think it might be interesting to do again, given where we are now with the pandemic and how people are reacting to this time in the pandemic, when we still have a pandemic. And what is happening, that might be interesting as a presentation.
Okay.
So those were my thoughts. And I don't know quite how we do this, Leslie, how we.
Well, I have
Mhm.
taken notes. Joyce
Okay.
has taken notes. If there's more input, we can take it. Otherwise, what I would like to do is take your input,
Mhm.
put it into a draft 2023 work plan calendar for you to review next month. If everyone is okay with the idea of bringing one of our new contracted providers in for a presentation, we will also include that next month, even though you will have not approved your work plan just yet. But it sounds like that people are interested in that, so that shouldn't be an issue.
Sure. And I think we'll all have our thinking caps on too.
Yeah, again, this is a living document. You can add to it.
Commissioner Davis?
Interested in where the liaisons ended up. If that was bumped, you said was bumped and bumped further ahead, but did they actually land in a month at all, or is it to be determined?
We did not land on a month, just that it probably shouldn't happen quite yet, was I think Chair Meltzer's idea. And what I'll do is I'll kind of look at how things lay out and where there's logical space and it makes some sense. I'll put it in the draft and you can see if you want to keep it or move it somewhere else at next month's meeting.
And then when you do actually put the liaison part together, you put out the organizations or the different boards or the different commissions and the times met and who was doing it. But I think it might be like this year, it would be nice if we had one page of why do we have liaisons in the first place? And how much more valuable could they be if we did them if we were better equipped to do them, et cetera, et cetera. Because I think there's a lot of conversation that could happen that doesn't happen because we don't utilize them well. So maybe just make it a little more interesting, because I don't know how many new members you'll have by then, but the new members need to, it's a good way to learn. So I don't think it's been communicated very well in the past. It's something that makes it sound like something that we have to do. It makes it sound like a task, and it should be something completely different.
Should be fun, huh?
Well, fun and informative. Yes, fun and informative.
No, absolutely. No, I agree with you. I agree with you. So, okay. So,
but that's my
1 second, please.
Oh, yes.
So Leslie, there conceivably will be new commissioners, as council makes their decisions. Whether any of us will be here or not is irrelevant to the fact that any commissioners that are new might need to, even with the older providers, might need to know what they're about. And I always benefited from hearing from them all. And if I remember correctly, there was a scheduled every month or every other month where 1 or 2 of them came just to give a 3 or 4 minute spiel on what they provide. And I have always thought that was important. And like for myself, even though I've been here a while, I did learn from it every time.
Well, the other thing we used to do pre-pandemic was site visits, where we really learned a lot. But it's gone. It's just gone. Joy, did you have your hand up?
I did. I know.
Oh, good.
I think you talked about block by block. I think we should definitely have that on the agenda. They're on the ground now. There's a lot of them that are going to be on the ground, and I think they're going to come into contact with a lot of people that are under our purview, whether it has to do with mental health issues or even, seniors and people with disabilities dealing with the scooters and bicycles and, you know, anything under our purview. I think they could definitely give us some insight that others aren't. So I think that would be valuable.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I was in at a meeting and I didn't drive there and I didn't want to walk home, and I called block by block and they actually walked me home. That's, I mean, that felt really good. And there were two. So anyway, any other thoughts about this before we go to items from staff?
I do have one more thought. I was going to leave it for commissioner comments because I did want to talk about our communication with the public. I know that social services sends out that blue booklet that, you know, seems like a good idea in theory. And I know I use it. I know a lot of people, I think Chair Meltzer, I think you had said you didn't even get a blue booklet with all the social services in it. But,
right, I had to go to City Hall to pick it up.
Yeah, and I know a lot of my friends don't even know it exists, but a lot of people, you know, their situations also change. So I'm, you know, always wondering, you know, how we can communicate better. I know, and Derek, you could back me up on this, that we used to have on the DAB, we used to give out a newsletter quarterly, and then we just stopped, you know, and I don't want to give, you know, city staff more work to do, but I think it's just imperative that people know about our, you know, services. And I know rent stabilization keeps sending out that pamphlet we get every so often. I'm sure you guys have seen it, and it's really informative. And they actually added one of our partners on this past.
The Maple Center, yeah.
Yeah, and I thought that was just fabulous. You know, like, I mean, I can ask for more. I do want to ask for more, and I think that we should be telling our people all about these services. I mean, people, it's a rough time for a lot of residents, and I want to make sure they know. And I don't know, you know, I always get a lot of pushback when we talk about this newsletter, and Chair Meltzer, you could back me up on this. I mean, we've spoken about this personally, about trying to communicate better with our residents, but is that something we can put, you know, just even a conversation on the agenda?
Part of it is, I guess,
ideas.
It's financial. The brochure, because I just asked Leslie about that today.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently the brochure is being put together, or has been. Yes, Leslie?
It's in its very final stages. Staff discussed it this morning, and the trilingual Spanish, English, Russian social services guide listing all of the programs available to the city with, you know, the programs with whom we contract is nearing completion, to the point where all the translation's been done, the layout's been done, and it's set to go to the printer, and it will be a citywide mailing. And to your point, Commissioner Freiberg, the bit that you saw on the Maple Counseling Center was an opportunity that we seize upon when there's space in the rent stabilization newsletter to do that. And so that was, you know, we provided them that information, knowing that that goes out to every renter in the city of West Hollywood. So the trilingual social services guide will be going out soon as well to every household in the city, not just renters.
Well, we need to talk about it. We will continue to talk about it. We actually once had a little, what was it, a PR ad hoc committee or whatever, which Sam is going like this. Anyway, yes, I think we should talk about it too. And we'll make time for that. So if there are no other comments about this, what about items from staff?
I have a few. I know Derek has something. Derek, would you like to start, and then I can?
Sure. So the first thing I wanted to mention was TransCan Work. So we received their Q4 program report, and we did an audit. We verified the information. There were some discrepancies, but they did end the year strong. It was unfortunate that they ended strong at the very end of this contract, and also after we did not recommend them for funding. But it seems like at the end of the contract, they finally understood the target population, where to find the target population, and how to get them into service. So I think the 2.5 years that we had a lot of staff turnover. We had different interpretations of the contract and the program reports and the scope of work. And it took quite a long time, a little bit too late, to finally get a result that we all could see. But anyways, to report on the TransCan Work, so they ended up for intake at 120% of goal, their annual goal. For job seeker services, they provided 18 workshops, which was 90% of their goal. They had 4 online hiring events, which was at 200% of goal. And where they scored low was job placement. They didn't place any community member into a job, and they could only place 1 community member in a training program throughout the year. And these are really important service categories, the training programs, and also the hiring and the placement of individuals. So 0 job placements, and the training placement was at 17% of goal. So there were some areas that they were stronger in, mostly outreach, intake, and getting people into workshops. They had incentives to do so. But where they scored really low was getting somebody into an actual position or training them for a position. And that's it for me.
Okay, thank you, Derek. Yeah, just 2 quick things from me. This is for all of you, but I'm looking at Commissioner Davis's square. I have not forgotten about your adjournment motions request. I've immediately sent that over to the city clerk, and that she's looking into making that a change in the bylaw to both the commission agendas generally, the commissions generally, and the advisory boards. So I'm waiting to hear back from her on that, but I did want you to know that that request has been made. And I also just wanted to let folks know, I think you already do, that the council also has requested that, or passed a motion that our February meeting be remote as well. So we knew that it was January and possibly February. It has been clarified that it is January and February, and I will have an update for you at the February meeting if you don't get one sooner, with regard to what we can expect come March. So I just wanted to update you on that. Other than that,
there's one more thing I forgot to mention, Leslie, and that is so a provider emailed me a few days ago, and this actually article is going around in the New York Times. If you have time, please check it out. It's about xylazine, also known as Trank on the street. It is a drug that is now being mixed with fentanyl. It's being kind of home manufactured by dealers, and it's a horse tranquilizer used in veterinary medicine, but the way that it's being manufactured, it's actually causing deep wounds in individuals, and causing necrosis of the hands. So hands and feet have often been amputated as a result. This drug has been found in street drugs in Philadelphia and Vancouver, mostly on the East Coast. It hasn't appeared here yet in Los Angeles. So we are scheduling some time with providers to go over this in our HIV prevention providers meetings, and also some of the homeless homeless outreach PNCs that we have. So we'll be discussing this issue when it does come to the HIV prevention providers. Commissioners are always welcome to attend that meeting to listen in, and I'll let you know when we schedule a date.
Thank you, Tarek. Thanks. I take it there's no public comment? Yes? No? Okay.
Sorry, we don't have anyone for public
Yeah.
comment. There are members of the public online.
Okay, thank you, Joyce. Items from commissioners. Commissioner Davis, do you want to start?
Sure, I'll go quick because I really don't have any, but nice meeting. Thank you very much. I realize that I'm just seeing two of you, and usually when I see two of you, that means that two of you are off having a nice vacation or a nice day off. However, in this case, it's two of you are here and you're it. So I'm glad you're here. I'm sorry there's a great deal of work. I hope they are trying to expedite it. And just welcome everyone, new year, and we will see where it goes. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Borelli?
Derek, thanks for that information on Crank, whatever.
Trank, TRANQ.
It will get here. If we have a circuit party person advisory board, they need to know about it too. Also, thank you for the information from Transkin Work. That, a little heartbreaking at the end there that they got off to a great start a couple of years ago, and that change of leadership seems to have really thrown them off track. It was good to hear that they were able to rally at the end. I still am on their email list, and it seems just from when I'm getting through their blast that things are starting to come up a little bit. So I appreciate that follow-up. For us, I was shocked with a little reality today, so I'm not asking that we adjourn in memory of Matt Palazzolo, but shockingly, it was 5 years ago that we lost West Hollywood's amazing Matt Palazzolo, former LG, whatever it's called now. At the time, it was called Lesbian Gay Advisory Board member, and just an all-around good guy who did so much to help change people's lives. 5 years today, lost on a mountain across the world.
I'm sorry, Jen, did you want to say that you want us?
I'm not asking to adjourn in his memory.
Okay,
We did that 5 years ago, but it just, the date stuck in my brain, and I knew we were coming here tonight, and I knew many of us knew who Matt was. Happy New Year to everybody.
I was going to just say real quick to Sam, you're allowed to close in memory of a person again in the 5-year anniversary of. That would be perfectly appropriate to close in memory of a person for that reason.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Palmieri? You're muted. You're muted, Jim.
Okay. Thank you. I'm not sure if everyone is aware, but Vibes was an astounding success. There was around 475 to 500 people there. I didn't go for that reason because I was going to hang outside, but because of the weather and because everyone was going to be in one room, my health had to come first. But it was an astounding success, and I look forward to future work. I want to remind everybody that we hear so much about trans violence, and I have many good friends that are trans, and one of my closer friends that actually lived with me for a period of time, who unfortunately had to move to Bakersfield for work, was attacked this week, and 4 men, and she's a very slight woman, she's maybe weighs 90 pounds. 4 men attacked her when she was leaving her work, which is the trans drop-in center, and they just tried to break both of her legs. They tried to cut her ear off, and they repeatedly kicked her face until she was out cold, and then they left her for dead. And someone found her. Of course, they rushed her to the hospital, but this is Bakersfield. They sent her home the next day with no resources, not a nurse, if you could see how beat up my friend is, you would not believe it. We gathered a bunch of us gathered together and put some money together so that we can have meals delivered all week long because she can't walk. But the vindictiveness and the meanness of this attack, this wasn't just to rob her. This was to dehumanize her and to really harm her, and they did. And unfortunately, today's the third day. Today's the third day, and she's worse. Her head, her face is more swollen, but it's to be expected. But when I'm FaceTiming her, it's so difficult for me to look at it. So it can happen to any of us. Sam and I actually started a lot of activism around a hate crime. If you remember, Trev Brody was one of those vicious crimes that we had. And this was a crime as vicious, and it was certainly not for a robbery. Derek, this new xylazine, as it's called, if you remember, we had a discussion about something that also caused necrosis, and it was, if I'm remembering, was it bath salts that folks were shooting, and it was causing what they were saying was alligator skin? Did we have
Yes.
that conversation?
We did. That was probably
5 years ago?
2014 or 2015. Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, every couple of years, we're going to see one of these come down, and hopefully folks will pay attention to it. Trans can work. I mean, I do feel for them. I truly do. But they're about placement, and unfortunately it just didn't happen for them. But that's not to say it won't in the future, and that's not to say that they may not be back on board. And I always look to the future with providers. It was 5 years ago, and Sam was texting me nonstop at probably 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning for Matt, and it was devastation. Matt was a wonderful, wonderful activist. And every once in a while, I'll be watching an LGBT documentary, and I'll hear a voice when I'm doing something in the kitchen. I'll hear a voice, and I'll run out, and there it is. It's Matt. Whether he was working on Prop 8 or whatever he was doing, he was a very proud gay Asian community member who fought for everyone's rights, not just his own. And he's forever in my heart. So yeah, thanks for bringing him up, Sam and Stephen. If that is the case, we should probably do this in memory of him. And that's it, folks.
Thank you. Commissioner Freiberg.
I am a little behind on my congratulations, so I'm going to go over a few. Supervisor Lindsay Horvath, I wanted to congratulate her. The newly installed Mayor Shine and Mayor Pro Tem Erickson, the re-election of Council Meister and Heilman is back. Of course, our own Chelsea Byers, who is now a city council member. And I wanted to congratulate Chair Meltzer and Vice Chair Darvish. And I also wanted to give a shout out and commend Danny Hang, who is on the Business License Commission for his admirable work. I don't know if anyone had read the articles, but a business owner had applied for a license and was denied. What happened was, I'll give you a quick lowdown. The sheriff investigated her application. There were some inconsistencies. And then based on, the investigation, the city had denied her license. So she appealed, which cost a lot of money. She got a lawyer. Commissioner Hang wanted to take a closer look, and instead of just rubber stamping the city's decision, they were still following the rules. But it turns out because of her language barrier and confusion on her application, it caused a lot of suspicion. And so long story short, Commissioner Hang took a deeper look at the human side of it all, and she was just trying to do the right thing, get her license, pay taxes, do all of that. So they ended up giving her the license, but it did expose a lot of barriers with, language wise, money wise. If she didn't have the money to appeal it, it never would have happened. She hired a lawyer who had to go stand with her in front of the commission. Who can afford that? Not everybody, especially, if you're a new business owner. So I just wanted to really commend Commissioner Hang for his work, and we're so lucky to have him in our city. And thank you very much.
Thank you. I just have congratulations to our new mayor, Seppi Shine, and Mayor Pro Tem John Erickson. I did watch the swearing in, and that's really all I have. So we are ready to adjourn. What I need from you is Matt's last name. If you can say that the Human Services Commission will adjourn in the name of Matt.
Palazzolo.
Thank you. To its next meeting scheduled for Tuesday, February 14th, 2023 via teleconference. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody.
See you
Have
folks
a
next
nice
month.
evening.
Bye.